preacher. I wouldn't have let Brother Jones sing that last song. Set the table for worship in our lives. Last week we talked about what I need. We stopped around Genesis, the 22nd chapter. We followed the story between Abraham and Isaac, his ability to take his son and offer him back to God. What was unique about that story is that it was the first time the Bible uses the word worship. So when he says something to the two lads, he says, I'm going to take my boy. Y'all stay down here with this donkey. We going up over yonder and worship. No one seemed to have a question about what worship was except Isaac. Because as they began to make their journey about up the hill to offer this burnt offering, Isaac became curious. He began to ask his dad all that we need for this thing called worship. I see the wood. That's the stuff that's going to burn stuff. And we're carrying fire with us. So I know that's going to ignite the wood. The daddy, you said it's an offering. A burnt offering, that means you need something to sacrifice. Daddy, I don't see anything. So we're going to sacrifice. Abraham just says, come on. The Lord will provide. What you should have taken away out of that text and out of that message is that God needs you. You are the offering. Your pride is in the way of your worship. Your backbite is in the way of your worship. Your gossip is in the way of your worship. That tongue that lies is in the way of your worship. Anything that's not given to you of God and used for the glorification of God is in between you and God. And so until you act like Isaac, you can be curious, but you got to be willing to keep on walking. And lay yourself out and be willing to be sacrificed. That God then will look the way for you to really worship Him. And so I want to talk about why sacrificing yourself, your stuff, your things that are impeding us from worship is so significant. There is a benefit to worshiping God. And I think we don't understand in our lives how beneficial it is to offer ourselves to God. And the word worship, we found out, it was translated literally from the Hebrew to English as bow down. It's translated 170 times in this text, but only 99 of those times is translated as worship. The other times, it is bowed down literally in the text. And the reason is because the object of how you're going to worship. If you're worshiping, if you're bowing down on your knees, face to the ground, to God that woke you up this morning. The God that put clothes on your back, food on your table. The Bible translates that as worship. If it's something other than that, it translates it as bowing down. So as I was taking that into my study and I'm reading for this text, I began to realize something in this Daniel text that struck me. I was trying to figure out why Nebuchadnezzar was so upset when he got a report about 3 Jews whom he knew, whom had found favor in his house, who he had set up over authority of a province that he had provided them, did not worship what he wanted them to worship. And worship in the way he wanted them to worship. If you got a moment this morning, I want to paint a picture. Nebuchadnezzar was a bad king. The daddy of Nebuchadnezzar. Nebuchadnezzar was the one that got rid of the Assyrians. And his son, who became king, wants to outdo his dad. And so the son, Nebuchadnezzar, takes over and captures the Israelites. Conquers everything that his daddy had and takes a little bit more. Becomes king. Nebuchadnezzar. And Nebuchadnezzar has a plan that he wants to ensure that his reign is going to rule forever. So what he does, he calls for his chief eunuch and says, I want you to do a favor for me. I need you to go down to them folks we just brought into my kingdom, them Israelites, those captives over in Judah. I need you to go down there and find the young little boys. Find the ones that are smart, but they're young enough that they're impressionable. No hair on their face. Find the ones, the Bible says, without blemish. Bring me those ones without a scar and they don't really know anything about courting or nothing. This is Reverend Johnson. I'm going to fix the text to help you understand. He wants the middle school age boys. Get them and bring them to me. Because those are the ones that I can instill in what I want them to know. Because they're impressionable. The Bible says without blemish, that means they don't know nothing, but they're book learners. They ain't had no street experience. They ain't been down to the club. They ain't been up on Jackson. They ain't been hanging out. All they know is their ABCs and their 1, 2, 3. Bring me them little boys. And bring them into my house so I can then teach them what I want. I won't give them anything that they want. All the stuff in my kingdom they can have. So they won't even know they're being brainwashed because they're having such a good time. Can y'all see this? Now you have to understand what a eunuch is. This eunuch is an emasculated or effeminate man. I'm not making this up in this Bible. And Nebuchadnezzar has a chief one. Now he has to have a chief one because Nebuchadnezzar has a whole lot of women. And a king and what a eunuch does is protect his women from other men. And so the king wants the eunuch, the master chief of all the eunuchs, to protect his women because he doesn't have to worry about his eunuch wanting his women. Yeah, you can't get every man to watch your women when you're the king, especially if they like women. Y'all thought it was brand new, people. I keep trying to tell you, nothing brand new going on in the church. It's in the Bible. And so he particularly grabs effeminate men to watch over his women because they ain't interested in them. So he takes that one who ain't interested in women and tells them, go get the little boys. And bring them so we can educate them. Now you have to know the Bible. Folks is uncomfortable having read this text. Because the Bible says that as the little boys were doing what they needed to do, there was 4 of them. They didn't want to be bothered with what they had been offered. There was 4 of them. Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. And y'all scratching your head. Because y'all don't know those names. You ain't heard those names because we've always told the story from the other side. We've only told them from their oppression. We haven't heard the story from their liberation. And so when you hear those names, let me tell you what folks began to do trying to manipulate these boys. Daniel names mean, my God is my refuge. But they renamed Daniel to Belshazzar. Renamed him and took his name. Hananiah means great they took it and changed his name. Michelle, it talks about who is what God is. They took him and changed his name. Azaria is still